Hello everyone and welcome to this new video where I'm going to go over the two personal branding funnels and just what I've noticed within 2023 and what's been going on with just the creator businesses and how they've kind of been structured. And I'm just going to give you my take on it and just to kind of educate you on the way that the digital economic realm within being a creator is kind of being built up right now. And you can take from this video whatever you want. I'm just here to educate you on what I've personally noticed. So let's get right into it. So what I'm going to cover is the broad method, the targeted method, which path to choose, and the long-term game. So this isn't going to be a very fluffy video. I'm just going to get right into the metrics and you can take of it what you want. So the broad method. So if you think of creators like Iman Gadzhi, Ali Abdaal, Dan Koe, what are they doing within their content? Well, they're making quite broad content. Iman Gadzhi, obviously, when it comes to broad content, they each have a little tiny niche that they're in, right? When it comes to wealth, health, relationships, and happiness. But their content is fairly broad. Iman Gadzhi makes content about wealth creation, the same with kind of Dan Koe. Ali Abdaal makes it about productivity and also about wealth creation, and also just self-improvement in general between all three of these. So when they create YouTube videos or just make content in general, it's aimed to just reach a lot of people because they just want to get as many people familiar with their name and in their ecosystem as possible. The reason being is because they're kind of doing a long-term conversion method where they're making content that's very broad, gets a lot of people's attention, and then over time they, aim to sell their products. With Iman Gadzhi, he has his little events that he does where it just aims to with scarcity, just convert people to his product Educate. Ali Abdaal has different courses and he's got his book now. With Dan Koe, pretty much every video he does like soft call to actions that leads them to his products, which people can look on the description, and then they go through a landing page and then they kind of get sold over time there. So that's the broad method. And I think many people think that this is the best way to kind of grow a creator business is just making broad content. And that's what Dan Koe preaches as well. But I'm going to just kind of uncover the truth behind it. Another person that I forgot to mention here is Hamza. Hamza is a self-improvement YouTuber. He makes stuff like content around masculinity. Sorry, I'm a bit sick. But he makes content around masculinity, about self-improvement, about just stuff like that, really. Relationships as well. And he also took a broad method. He was starting on YouTube for many, many years and made very broad content. And over time, he just slowly was able to monetize and gain an audience. So let's continue. So the targeted method. So the targeted method is just more low key. So they're targeting a very specific industry and are dominating in that industry. For example, if there's a coach or a creator and it helps doctors on how to get in shape and how to have a work-life balance, I'm pretty sure it's going to be fairly easy to just be a dominating creator within that industry. And I'm going to go over more of my thoughts later on exactly what the targeted method is. But I just want to give you some examples of the targeted method. So I'm going to take the exact same creators before and just talk about how they started. So Iman Gadzhi, at the start he was documenting his journey on YouTube on how he was building an SMMA, so social media marketing agency, and showing people how to do the same. Ali Abdaal, at the start he was showing people how to study for hard exams. I think it was, he's a doctor, and just productivity tricks in general. And Dan Koe, at the start he built up his brand on, he was building his brand on Twitter, and he was teaching people how to, do web design. He was starting as a web design freelancer, and then I think he eventually sold a course on Twitter, and then eventually broadened his audience over time. So which path do you choose? And I'm just going to get right into the nitty-gritty. All of these audiences or all of these creators started with kind of a more specific niche and then broadened their audience over time. Because when it comes to building an audience and just monetizing that audience as quickly as possible, it's way easier to just pick the ideal avatar and just get them as a follower or get them as a subscriber and sell them the product that can solve their solutions than just picking a random broad person and slowly educating them on their problems and slowly educating them on why they need their product. But you still have to, when you create a very specific brand that's around a specific problem, you still should show your interests and be human. Don't neglect, certain things that you want to show, or just things like that make you human, because it's going to build immense trust and sets you up for the long term. So in terms of the long-term game is to go broad with your content and nurture the audience over a significant period of time to your beliefs and to your products, just like those 3 creators I just mentioned. This allows you to reach as many people as possible and also to have a product ladder. So having, products that nurture them on a little problem and then slowly just upping the different products that you have in your kind of product suite. So that's the long-term game. And I kind of wanted to explain everything else just very freestyle on this kind of board here. But I just wanted to kind of tell you my approach to how I would just build a creator business, and it wouldn't be targeted and it wouldn't even be broad. It would be somewhere in the middle. Because for me, I think when it comes to building up your brand online, it should always evolve over time. It shouldn't just be stagnant in a very specific niche and never evolve to something more. It should always move forwards, always just target different people, target different problems, and just build your products and continue over time. But let's just take 2 different types of people. Let's take Hamza. So, like I mentioned before, Hamza is a self-improvement YouTuber, and he went broad from the start. And it took him years to kind of grow. Eventually, he blew up quite hard, but it took him a long, long time to kind of grow that audience. And he was extremely successful. He was very successful. He grew his brand in a broad fashion very, very well. At the beginning, I think it took him a whole year to get to 1,000 subscribers, or maybe even less, maybe 100 subscribers. I can't remember. But it took him a long time to gain that traffic, and it definitely took over whatever type of specific type of content he could make. But he made it very broad, and eventually he found a part to monetize. I think his first product to monetize was a fitness course. So here's Hamza, right? He made content very broad. I think it took him a few years to make this fitness course and monetize. And then there's, let's say, someone that just does content on fitness, right? And that person made a course and could probably monetize within the first few months, right? Because he's just targeting this person. I don't have an example for a fitness influencer. He's targeting the exact, or he or she is targeting the exact person that wants to buy this fitness course. So in that way, you can monetize way faster than Hamza did. But because he had kind of a long-term game already in place, because he was broad, he was able to move this way further beyond and ultimately overtake this person, because this person never wanted to evolve and just slowly broaden up their content. But when it comes to what I would do, is I would go somewhere in the middle between these 2 people. I would create fitness content. This is just as an example. Let's say you create content as a mindset coach or whatever you want, but let's say you're creating fitness content. You want to make it broad and you want to make it specific, because then you can monetize from day one. Let's just say broad and specific. You can monetize from day one, and you can also have a long-term game to ultimately reach more people and just create a more holistic product, I guess, that can also just make more money in the future. So it's great for short term and for long term. So create short term, for the short term, you can quickly monetize because you have specific content that helps people. And for the long term, you've got broad content that you mixed in there as well. Also, I just wanted to mention as like a side tangent here, from what I've noticed within specific content and broad content, broader content tends to sell lower ticket products because you're not targeting a very specific person with a specific problem. You can't really charge a lot of money. For example, let's say you're a content creator on Instagram and you just make cool content, aesthetic content, and you just teach a course on how to grow on Instagram. You're a content creator on Instagram and you've got a decent following. Let's say you got 50,000 followers. You got 50K followers, and you teach a course on how to grow on IG for, let's say it's $47, right? Because it's very broad, you can't charge a lot of money, right? But let's say you are a let's say you teach real estate investors how to grow on Instagram. Let's say you've got 5,000 followers, so significantly less. You can probably charge 2K for that product. 2K on how to grow on Instagram. I'll just write the same thing, but this one is for real estate investors. Because it's a specific niche, you can target that specific person and you can charge significantly more because it's just targeted towards that specific person. So depending on what you want to do, broad or targeted, you're going to have different products as well. So when it comes to my recommendation of just going somewhere in the middle, I wouldn't, you still have to pick what side you're going to go, whether you want to be broad or whether you want to just be specific. And for the most part, I would suggest being specific first, and then eventually, if you want to broaden up your niche, you can just do how to grow on Instagram in general. But what I would do is I would go specific first, and I would sprinkle in a few broad posts. So mainly make specific content about how you can help people with your specific problem that you can solve based on what you solved yourself or what you did for clients already. And sprinkle in a few broad posts that might get a few other, people engaged in your profile. Because that way you can monetize from day one to your specific audience, and you also have that long-term game of just making more impact to a wider audience. So once you've been creating some content around your specific problem that you can solve, you're gonna probably be able to monetize pretty quickly because you just have a direct problem that you can solve, right? And over time, this is also what I'm going to be doing. Creating a product that can solve a specific problem for an audience, and then eventually you can go on platforms like YouTube, even on Instagram, and just create content that can reach a wider audience and sell them a more broad problem. And this is what people of Dan Co, for example, done. Dan Co created a product for web designers, right? Because he was a web design freelancer himself, so he made a course. And then I think he probably, I don't even know this to be honest, but I'm pretty sure he consulted people on how to grow on Twitter, So it's a kind of more of a broader thing. And now he just talks about how to build wealth online. It's very broad. And now he's even building his own Cortex University, which is even broader. You know, how to just teach any person ever in a university how to grow their online presence and make digital income. So as you can tell, this is kind of the way that they have progressed. The same with Eman, you know, Eman Gaji making a SMA course. SMA, and then he started to just do broad content. Okay, he was talking about SMA, then he made a course and just made broad content about wealth creation. And now with his company Educate, it's got wealth creation altogether, right? He's got building an agency, he's got sales, he's got copywriting, and now he's got different guest speakers coming in that talking about drop shipping and all sorts of stuff. So as you can tell, all of these people are doing specific niches first and then broadening up as they go. They don't start broad, because the problem when you start broad is it's very hard to just stand out, because you're trying to compete in all these different industries without having a solid foundation first. And a lot of times I see the same with Instagram, where everyone is trying to recreate the viral videos and going hella viral and getting tons of followers, but then not being known for anything. They're trying to grow with all these different things, self-improvement, sell a very broad thing like this, right? Growing a great following, selling a course like this, might not even getting lots of sales because this is extremely saturated. Everyone is, you know, trying to sell a course on how to grow on Instagram. And because of that, it's hard to just build a long-term brand and actually being able to separate yourself from the crowd. So I would suggest create content in a specific industry or around a specific problem. Create a product or service that solves it, and then eventually you can go broad. But this takes time, and many people don't want to kind of sacrifice the most valuable thing they have, which is their time, right? You have to build a solid foundation first before you can go broad and just target a lot of different people. An example for this video, right? My main target audience within just my personal brand right now is I help mindset coaches scale their business on Instagram. That's like my main target audience. But of course, some of these videos I make can be, you know, helpful for any type of person. So in that case, I still do create kind of a mixture of broad content. Or previously I made a video on how to set goals for 2024. And even though that does give value to my mindset coach audience, it still can be broad and be valuable for other people as well. But you have to understand that dynamic, because it's just going to be way better to just be crystal clear on how this industry works as becoming a creator than just jumping right in and just doing. Okay, that probably is better, just doing and then learning and then improving. But I'm just going to try to give you a head start by just making sure that you understand the concept of just being known in a specific industry, creating a software, product, solution, service, whatever, and then broadening up and creating content that can help more people. And some people never broaden up, right? Some people just become the best person ever that can help construction workers have a healthy diet, right? Some people just love being extremely niche, but it's a very low percentage because humans are very dynamic creatures, right? We get bored if we just do the same thing again. We have dynamic interests. For example, me, I'm interested in business, health, self-improvement, fashion. I studied fashion at fashion school. Many people don't know that. But I ultimately wanted to become a business owner, but I still thought fashion school was the best place to learn how to make clothes, when all I really wanted to know is how to build a business and sell clothes. I also used to make music. You know, I made songs. I'm on Spotify. And because of all these dynamic interests, most people don't want to stay in a very niched up industry their whole entire life. Most people don't want to help construction workers. This is just an example on how to have a healthy diet. You know, most people want to create a cookbook after that. Cookbook. And the cookbook is broad. And how do they sell this cookbook the best if it's a broad product? Well, they build a broad audience. So they make content about diet in general, or maybe their best maybe their favorite recipes it's a more general niche, right? Or how to diet if you're a mother, because you are a mother yourself. You know, people tend to broaden up the way that they create content over time, because if you're stuck in one space, it gets boring. So that's why people generally tend to broaden up, not only because the income possibilities are way better, but also because people get bored within that specific interest. So whenever you're a coach or just any content creator online, I would suggest to start small with a specific interest, sprinkle in your hobbies, and make it a human brand, right? Don't just be a static robot that only makes content about, you know, construction workers and how they can have a better diet. Make content on how you were once a construction worker and how you were tired and fed up and were wondering what the problem was, and you realized it was your diet. Or other hobbies you have, maybe you like to do fishing and then you make content about fishing. Sprinkle in unique things into your brand, and over time you can broaden up. So I don't want to ramble anymore in this video, but I just wanted to kind of explain the two different ways of building a personal brand: going broad and going specific. And what I would suggest is go specific first, sprinkle in some broad content that reaches new audience and builds your following, but start specific and then slowly broaden up over time. It's going to be easier to monetize, and you're going to be able to build your foundation in a specific place of expertise, and then you can kind of explore from there. So hopefully this makes sense, and have a wonderful rest of your day.